it seems like temp tags did dominate this legal report. A lot of things to consider. One question as far as the easy process, which our dealerships use the easy tag system, and I think if I'm understanding it, disallows the third tag to be issued, which begs to ask the question in the state of Tennessee, how many dealers are still using paper tags, and would there be something to educate the dealers to go to that system? It's much more convenient. It's easy to audit. It's a very easy to control, and I would expect we probably ought to implement some kind of educational program there to let the dealers know that it would make their easier. And then the second thing I would comment would be that the county clerks in the state of Tennessee are behind right now. Shelby County is at the present 3 weeks behind, and as a dealership, and then if anybody buys cars from CarMax, which they're the second largest network in the world right now, and they're inundated with a backlog, and we're having lots of problems. So it comes to this, there's not an option to issue a third temporary tag unless you go through certain channels through the state, and then the dealer can't do it. It takes the customer, and then we're forced to the situation where we either got to put the customer in a rental car or give them their money back. That's the only option. There's no other option. So the third and fourth and fifth temporary tags are not legal. You can't do it. But we are, the dealers are struggling, and the consumers are struggling with tags right now and getting their title and registration. So my point would be, any opportunities to be speaking to the associations would be to educate them on the easy tag system, because it is a good control mechanism. And I personally, from our dealerships, it makes it easy because it doesn't allow that third tag to be issued, so it takes training off the table. They have to raise their hand, the staff, and say, "Hey, I got an issue," and it gives management time to control that instead of just open season on temporary tags. But anyway,
this is Commissioner Chairman Roberts, and number 7. I'm okay with the $3,000 penalty unless we reduce it by 1 due to this to what we just discussed.
Right. If we want to do it across the board, we'll probably have to alter quite a few of these.
Yes. And I'm unclear on what constituted fraud to generate an additional $500 penalty.
Well, at the time that this legal report was submitted, the title has still not been received. So I thought if the title's not received, soon, it seems like that's kind of fraudulent to sell a car and not be able to produce the title.
Number 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, Commissioner Norton, so if we have to assume that the $3,000 civil penalty for the temporary tags is in play regardless, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we're going to reduce it to $2,500 to keep it consistent.
Across the board.
Next, number 12, I don't think the dealership did anything wrong, and I would take action against the salesperson in that case.
Like to change the recommendation to close and open a complaint against the salesperson?
Yes. Number 13, this is a good example of a case that would not play well in front of the government ops committee. Storm, pandemic, laid off employees. I would recommend a letter of warning on office hours and a $500 civil penalty for issuing the temp tag on a salvage vehicle.
Question: Is that consistent with other fines for tag on a salvage vehicle?
I believe it is.
I looked at that one too, but I had some thoughts on it. But issuing a temporary tag on a salvage vehicle is a pretty serious offense.
Right. Our citation schedule says we will fine them $2,500 per tag on a salvage vehicle.
That should bear more weight than the business hours, but it's a serious offense for. I'd be more inclined to leave the fee lean towards the salvage vehicle than the hours.
Yeah. The fifth.
Whatever y'all want to do.
I
I mean, I'm fine with it.
I'm Commissioner Norton. I'm disinclined to reduce this penalty.
Commissioner Gallagher.
Number 16, I would close it and flag in case dealer ever reapplies for a license.
Close and flag.
Commissioner Norton, could you explain when you flag something? Can you explain to me what that means?
But when it's flagged, then that means within our database, when that license, if you input that license number, there's a red box that comes up, and it says has previously been disciplined, and it throws a flag.
License number. If he applies for a new one, would that flag still? I think that's the chairman.
He applied under a new dealership name, LLC. No. If it flagged as if he's individually licensed and individually licensed, come back to get a new license. Say if it was terminated, then yes, it would flag that individuals.
Chairman Roberts again. Number 40, the bigger issue is no response to the Motor Vehicle Commission. I would consider requiring their appearance maybe at the next meeting or show some calls for a license, for a suspension.
Commissioner Norton, I agree. Appears they just have a total lack of regard for responding to the commission, and begs to wonder if what else is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 42.
Sorry, could you repeat? I apologize. I was trying to read. So for number 40, it is to have them come to the next meeting?
Either require them to come to the next meeting or show calls for a license suspension, just get them on board because they just seem to be ignoring us.
I think that basically they need just to respond. They need to have a response to the staff. It would be suffice. Correct? Yeah.
Maybe we could. I don't have the file in front of me, but we can see if we can't send an investigator out there on that one. That response that we're looking for and bring something back. Maybe either they come next meeting or something more substantive. We can bring you back. Okay.
Sounds good. Number 42. How is the delay the dealer's fault? Have we ever considered having a conversation with the County Clerks Association?
Apologize, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read this because Stuart's not obviously here with us.
Sure.
He had to.
He's reading it right now.
Okay.
It seems like the title was actually registered in their name, but there was an issue in actually processing that to do that. So to your question was out to the county.
To the office or to the association in general?
I'm not familiar with that one. I'm not.
Okay.
Commissioner Norton, I make a recommendation that we request the staff to reach out to, I think it's a deputy chair that oversees title and registration for the state of Tennessee, to meet with staff to better understand the challenges within the marketplace and to better communicate opportunity to improve. So I think that would be a recommendation I'll agree to. It better serve not only the dealer body but also the consumers as well, because it is clearly a struggle. Like I said, the Shelby County Clerk's office is backed up 3 weeks, and by the time we process paperwork and get it to them, time is an element.
Number 43, are they a print or demand dealer or a paper tag dealer? If the former weren't 3 tags, if the former weren't the 3 tags being allowed? And if the latter, shouldn't we extend the same principle?
I do not know, Mr. Chairman, as to whether or not this one filed a third tag.
$44 would be the same also, same as above.
Would that be the recommendation, is that if they were authorized, if we find out that they were authorized, that we would close them, but if they were not, then we would do
Yes.
500? Okay, so I'll make that. Apologize, we did.
49, I'd close. In the first place, you don't have to disclose T&R fees. And secondly, charging a lower fee doesn't appear to cause the consumer any harm. And it obviously it was a mistake, and sometimes that'll happen.
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat what number that was?
That was 49, unless I've got unless I've got it numbered wrong. That's right. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. I would just take the warning off and just close it.
Well, they had no disclosure. They had no disclosure for the processing fee, so they didn't. So I would assume they got lucky. They didn't get fined for not including the processing fee.
I think that was the fee that wasn't disclosed. I was thinking it was.
Yeah, while leaving the.
Oh, and that was my.
I do think that if the fee was not disclosed.
Yeah, that's been pretty consistent with it.
There was a disclosure.
There was a disclosure. Just the $10.
It was just a
$10. Okay.
I think the disclosure
You are right.
disclosure said
yeah.
500, and it was actually supposed to be 510.
It was hard to understand in this short narrative, but yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
I thought
Then
that
I
it would be
agree
difficult.
with Chairman Roberts that basically I would close. I agree with that.
$66 appears to it's the same comment as to print or demand versus paper tag dealer, regarding a third tag.
Commissioner, can we clarify that? The additional tag is against the law, correct? They can't issue a third tag.
Yes, but during
So the to that question, Mr. Norton, the Motor Vehicle Commission rules say you can only give as many temporary tags as are allowed by law. The law is actually under the purview of the Department of Revenue, and the Department of Revenue rules, who creates them, says that you're not allowed to have any more than 2. However, the department can give permission to provide additional ones, and so that's what the rule says, is that the general rule is 2, but the department can authorize as many as they would like. And so when Erica actually had contacted over there because a dealer told her that they were allowed to issue more than 2, and when she contacted Department of Revenue or vehicle,
the director of
Yep.
vehicles.
they said yes, they had been authorizing people to provide more than 2. However, we had not been notified of that. So so that was kind of a point of consternation for us in our office. So that's something that we're going to check on here, because there wasn't anything specifically published to the public or to the dealers that we know of that says we're going to do a blanket authorization. They were just giving authorization on one-off. So
But weren't they also allowed to because of COVID?
I don't know if any of the emergency orders under COVID allowed specifically, if the governor's orders authorized more than 2 temporary tags. I do know that if the Department of Revenue director says that they can have more than 2, then they can. That's what we were trying to flesh out for all fairness of the actual dealers, so that, you know, if they were told yes by Revenue, who creates the rules, that we weren't penalizing them. We just were not informed.
Mr. Norton, in history, in the past, I'm familiar with that. Department of Revenue can issue a third, but it required the consumer going direct to the Department of Revenue and getting that tag issued for them. The dealer couldn't do it. That's my understanding, because we issue a lot of temporary tags
Right.
that we still can't. But I'd recommend the staff to clear that up
Right.
and let us know, because obviously the investigators don't know, and they're still issuing issues tag.
Is it the red tag, Mr. Norton?
No,
not the red one.
It's the red
It was
tag.
a green one.
The third temporary tag was issued by the Department of Revenue
Right.
directly to the consumer for calls, but not the dealer. The dealer can't issue the third tag. My understanding. Does anybody in the audience have any input on it?
Oh,
Us?
Commissioner Galvin, so if you go to the department to get an approval for a third temporary tag, what is the process for that department to get back to the consumer? Is there a written process to keep on file? Is it verbal? So how do they know? So if I call the department and I get that approval, you know, I mean,
Oh.
our records, are they going to give me to make sure that I'm legit so I won't get fined?
Can we defer to the audience on this? I think we got some audience input that clarifies. Please, can we recognize Bob Weaver?
Members of the Commission, Chairman Bob Weaver, Tennessee Automotive Association. The law actually gives the Commission the power to authorize a third temporary tag under the temporary tag statute. What appears to have happened is somewhere along the line, because of different closures of the county clerk's offices, Business Information Systems, BIS, is the vendor for the print-on-demand temporary tag logs. And they were able on their system to permit a third print-on-demand temporary tag to be issued during this time period, principally driven by the problems with the various county clerks having to be closed. What appears to me is I'm not sure any broad communication went out to dealers. So those that are still using paper tags, I'm not sure they knew the opportunity was there for the third tag. And if I understood Chairman Roberts, what he was suggesting is, as you go through this report today, you may want to consider those that issued a third paper tag be treated with the same mercy, I guess, that the ones printing on demand had for issuing the third tag. Now, I will tell you that this week, the Department of Revenue is sending out a letter to all dealers stating that by November the 1st, they're going to push everybody to the print-on-demand system. So it will no longer be an option to continue to issue paper tags. So by November the 1st, that transition is supposed to take place. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Weaver. I would say this, being a dealer, the option for the third tag openly suggested or given is pretty much breaks the seal for a lot of abuse. I'm concerned, and I understand it, but the clarification of it would help to know the process in which to do it.
It's also my understanding that they have now turn that off.
Okay.
So now the system only allows 2 tags. So on a go-forward basis, once the perceived crisis was over, they then cut off the ability to print that 3rd tag, which has caused some consternation from those used to issuing one. So, but now everybody's back to 2, is my understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chairman Roberts, as I went through the cases on today's legal report, I noticed several instances where the Motor Vehicle Commission staff was auditing the advertising inappropriately, cited several dealers for failing to include the processing fee in their advertised price, in addition to separately stating the fee. As a result, a proposed civil penalty has been suggested for that violation. I'm also aware of that the full commission will consider a recommendation today from the Rules Committee, from the subcommittee, that the existing rule be amended so that the processing fee will be separately stated, but no longer have to be included in the advertised price. After considerable thought, I would like to make a recommendation to the committee that where a complaint on today's legal report is not consumer generated, that we remove the civil penalty for failure to include the fee in the advertised price, and instead on that issue only, we also include a letter of warning to the dealer that current rules require both inclusion and to separately state such fees. We should also note that the Commission is considering a proposal to the change of that rule. And my purpose is twofold. First, educate the dealer, thereby protecting the consumer. Secondly, out of fairness to the Tennessee licensed dealer, if we're going to change the rules, let's educate instead of punish. Sound okay?
Commissioner Norton, yeah, I applaud the staff. I applaud the Rules Committee. I applaud you, Chairman. Anyone involved for these proposed rules changing. I appreciate it very much. I would ask the question to, in your consideration for the letter warning in lieu of the civil penalties, ask would that set a precedence going forward between now and when the actual rule is adopted. So that would be my only question. Maybe for the full commission to determine. I'm not sure, but thank you, staff, for addressing that and seeing it through. And I think it was time to be done.
Okay, this is Chairman Roberts. Number 83, I believe I've got the number right. This is the dealer's 3rd citation for improper display. What don't they understand? And does the staff need to pay them a visit?
Commissioner Galvin, on that same note, just from my understanding, can you explain the improper display of inventory in public sidewalks? What is the rule?
You can't display motor vehicles can't be displayed on any place other than the location of the dealership unless there are certain specific areas and they have to be under a covering. I guess best usually when you see them, I believe at the fairgrounds, airports, locations like that. It's specific in the rule, and I'm not doing a good job of stating the actual rule for it, but it has to be on the actual location, the address location of the dealership. So if it's off of the address location of the dealership, then it's not within that. I consider it a bubble, so a public sidewalk would not be on their bubble.
I'm aware of such penalties, not personally, but more times than not, it is usually the sidewalk in front of the dealership. That's where you see a lot of violations and parked on public access in and around the dealership. So, but
would local ordinances also
Yes.
apply to this too?
Correct, they do.
Okay.
So to your point, Chairman, I mean, obviously they deem these penalties as more of a promotional charge instead of a penalty. So they don't get it, is there another course of action to stop these from doing this if that's what we so do? I mean, I would even explore options from the staff as far as what's the next step on this. Obviously, they're not getting the message if we choose to do so.
That's right. Then number 89, how many vehicles has this person sold in 1 year? More than 5? Is he holding himself or herself out as a motor vehicle dealer?
I'm reading, Mr.
89.
I can't answer that question, Mr. Chairman. It doesn't say how many vehicles it is, so I can't answer your question as to how many for unlicensed activity it was. I can remove this one from the legal report and get that answer and put it on the next one in October.
I think that's number 91. This is just a question. I don't necessarily disagree, but how did the council get $2,500 on this one? The severity of the violation, or in precedence? I mean, what?
So, for issuing a temporary tag on a salvage vehicle, or our chart shows that that's $2,500.
That what it is?
So that's how it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I say chart. That's what the commission had previously authorized. So.
Number 104. Same question as before regarding the dock fee in light of the pending rules change. Should the penalty be reduced to $500 for two violations? Sound reasonable?
Yes.
$500 violations. Number 144, I would, due to the pending rules discussion, I would reduce penalty to $250 for not disclosing whether the vehicle was used or pre-owned.
Okay.
Number 152, all it is, I'm just saying that I agree with the staff's recommendation. And do we need a separate motion at this time to go along with the staff on their recommendation, or do we just do it under the blanket of our meeting?
Norton, my question was, does it have to be a written notice? Can it be a verbal? That'd be I would want something writing from validate protest.
Verbal.
I agree. That's a recommendation of the staff. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
The recommendation of staff is to, if this complainant wishes to proceed, they need to put something in writing.
Amy, for a few minutes. I'm going to look in our file and see if we actually
Okay.
received a written notice, because my question is, did we receive written notice, or is the question is whether or not the dealer received a verbal notice? Meaning that it may have been that the dealer received a
responded.
verbal notice from
Okay,
the
I see.
manufacturer, but they sent us formal notice, and that's
Okay.
why, and that's what we're doing. So let me look that up.
Okay,
very
I
quickly.
see. I read it now. The respondent has only provided. Now, who is the respondent?
Manufacturer.
Okay. Okay.
So they received a verbal notice. It sounds as if it's saying that they received a verbal notice from the
Okay.
manufacturer, not in a written documentation. And since they believe they have notice, they provided a written documentation of notice to the commission.
Everything's in order for this?
So the respondent.
I think it is.
Okay, so the respondent, verbal is like no response, in my opinion. So, and if the complainant has the purview to proceed without a response, written or verbal or whatever, with a manufacturer, then a protest, my opinion, could be filed. Back to your.
Do we need to have a special vote on that at this time?
You would not. It's on the legal report. It would authorize all. It would be authorized through all. I don't see.
All I have.
I've got a few. One is number 88. I'm not sure if I missed something on this one. It's there's a civil penalty of $10,000 for unlicensed activity. But in the narrative, it doesn't say anything about an unlicensed activity. Is there something just left out of that narrative?
This is Stuart Huffman. Can you hear me?
And maybe Stuart on.
Okay, number 88. I'm working with respondent's attorney. So pretty much what we're trying to do is get this person licensed, dealership license, and it's understood that anytime a car, truck, whatever is sold, that they will incur the highest amount penalty. And so 2 of them were sold. The person's still not licensed, so that's why there's a 10,000.
Did y'all get that?
We're having, this is Stuart. This is Tony. We're having difficulty understanding what you just said, because it's cutting in and out.
But this Commissioner Norton. So your opinion is there is substance for a fine for $10,000 for unlicensed activity?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, commission decision. I don't see enough information here to accept or reject the recommendation. So I don't know what peers feel about that. I don't know. I just didn't see anything that what I read, that I can sign off on a decision to fine this person. I mean, other than take a word.
Well, this person has numerous complaints, and like I said, we're working with the attorney that they hired to get this person licensed, and then also it was understood that each sale would get the highest amount possible for the unlicensed, and that 2 were sold.
Commissioner Norton, I just got a little bit of that, and I apologize, but it looks like to me if we're waiting on something to determine if a licensed activity did happen, I would say we'd have to table this for further discovery. I mean, for the commission, if we need a commission a decision on this. Chairman.
Actually, did recommendation and another complaint. I don't know what they.
I agree. Yeah. So if we can table number 88 for further discovery and understanding, and I apologize, Stuart, we can't hear you. All right. I got one last thing, and it's number 1. Nope. Number 88. Yeah, number 8. Nope, we just did that one. Hold on, let me find it. It's just a general observation. I don't have it, but it was related to the case that had to do with, here it is. It's number 133. It references Carfax, and I've said in the past, and this is Commissioner Norton, that Carfax makes a lot of mistakes, and this was observed, and it was this particular case. It was without, inside the 10 years, or outside the 10 years, but the reference was made to Carfax, and I would caution the staff to understand Carfax is just a data reporting service. Bears, in my opinion, no relevance to understanding a case. Any information required to a mileage would require other investigations, other state registrations, but not relying on Carfax as a source for reliability. Okay, I'm not an advocate against Carfax. I actually like them very well. They provide a good service for the consumers. But in light of the fact of your time for investigating, my recommendation was to consider that as a very vague source for information and make a reference to mileage on a case. That's all I have, and I'll just circle back around on applaud the staff for doing a good job. It was an easy read in this report. A lot of mitigation for us having to continue to read. It was handled real well. I've been doing this for 6 years now, and my hat's off. This was a good report. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Galvin, I just got one other one. Number 10. Read number 10. It just bothers me because there were some misused sales practices going on in this case, and the fact that the complaint. I recommend, either a fine or a letter of warning instead of closure, because, I think something has happened, or he wouldn't have replaced all these employees. So I would.
Any comments?
Commissioner Norton, I agree. I think a letter of warning and maybe flag for a future follow-up.
Chairman, I apologize. This is Laura. Can I remind the board, please, when you're speaking, to make sure that your light is blue and you're speaking into the microphone? We cannot hear you.
How about now? I didn't have my speaker on. Gee.
Yes, sir. That is good.
Been absent for over a year. Sorry about that. But we got to revise on 157. It was dealing with advertising practices. And it's the last one on the report, and I'm trying to find it right quick. It was added, yeah. And I'm trying to remember what my question was. I should have wrote it down. But let's see. I'm almost there. Yeah, it's a... And it had a list of all of the things that the respondent had done on the advertisement. It was a recommendation of $10,000 civil penalty, and then the commission had a discussion, and we agreed with that. And then the new information council recommended amending the original discipline to the following: authorize a $10,000 civil penalty and require respondent to cease misleading, deceptive, and then the new recommendation: authorize $10,000 civil penalty and require respondent to cease deceptive, false advertising. My question to the staff: have we did a follow-up to make sure that the advertisement had ceased? Because that was the main issue.
We've done a few.
Okay, good.
Chairman Jackson, to continue that, I agree with you. This is one other situation where basically, is there a further action from the staff that we can make sure that this dealer is doing what he's supposed to do? Because it looks like they're not fazed by a $10,000 civil penalty, lack of response, lack of compliance. So I would ask the staff, what are the further actions we can take upon this dealer? Like Chairman Roberts suggested early on one, invite them here to talk to us if they don't want to have an investigator, and give them a reasonable explanation as to why they won't comply with what the things they've been asked to do. So if you want to agree with that, I think
I agree.
that'd be a recommendation.
We want to require them to appear.
Oh, to Tony's response to the other dealer, either comply and communicate with the investigator to give us a reason not to ask them to come here, and if it's a situation where they won't comply and they're not going to fall in line with the law, then we've got to look at other options. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't apparently to them, and some of these, this impacts the consumer, some of their advertising practices and some of their behaviors. So I can't say we can allow them to continue.
Yes, Commissioner. They originally were scheduled to come before the commission, and we thought that it might be better to have them report to staff. We have been in pretty constant contact with this dealership and have been monitoring everything, but we can certainly make the recommendation that we go ahead and authorize the civil penalty and then have them appear before the full commission at our next meeting.
Anybody, anything else?
Well, I think that's it. I've included.
Okay. With that said and done, I guess we need to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Oh, no, okay, adopted.
Oh, do we have a motion to adopt the report
legal report
with the changes and so forth?
Motion to adopt the legal report today with all the changes.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Let me go ahead and call the roll.
Okay.
Just to be sure. The motion was made to adopt the legal report by the legal committee as amended. The motion was made by Commissioner Norton, seconded by Commissioner Galvin. Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy?
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You have adopted the legal committee's recommended report.
Motion to adjourn.
And all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Thank you.
Let me give you that one.
I absolutely will. Commissioner Barker is absent. Commissioner Evans
Here.
is here. Commissioner Galvin
Here.
is here. Commissioner Jackson
Here.
is here. Commissioner Kramer is absent. Commissioner Levy
Here.
is here. Commissioner Lee is here. Commissioner Melton is here. Commissioner Murray is absent. Commissioner Norton
Here.
is here. Commissioner Vaughn is here. Commissioner West is here. And Commissioner White is absent. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Speaker's not on.
Thank you. Executive Director Lawrence, you got meeting notice?
Yes, sir. This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission website. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission's website since July 22nd, 2021. This meeting has also been noticed on the tn.gov website.
You don't need to take any action on your report. We need to adopt the agenda for today.
So moved, Commissioner Vaughn.
Second, Commissioner Norton.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We can do this now because we're not on the video. Okay, everyone was mailed received the minutes. What's your pleasure on the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the minutes for the previous meeting.
Any further discussion on the minutes? Let's roll call that one, if you don't mind. Executive Director Lawrence.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee. Votes aye. Commissioner Melton. Votes aye. Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West. Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts.
Aye.
Votes aye. And the motion was made to adopt the minutes by
Motion?
I made
Aye.
a
The
motion.
minutes.
Commissioner Norton and seconded by Commissioner
Melton.
Galvin. Thank you.
We have no appeals for today. And so I guess we can go directly into your report. Director Lawrence.
Sir. We are holding steady pretty much in our activities. If you would look at the active licenses, the number of dealers opened is virtually identical to our last meeting. We have a little over 16,000 salespeople and 456 representatives. We've issued one motor vehicle show permit. Our complaints are relatively down. We have had 220 new complaints opened with 245 closed. Our vehicle sales report has come in and we have over 2.1 million vehicles sold in 2020 with over 11,000 RVs sold in 2020. Our total annual sales report collection was at 93,900. And our performance metrics continue to improve. I'm not really sure how much more we can improve because we license people in literally less than a day. So I'm very, very proud of our team. They've worked hard and we continue to just strive for great customer service. They have a 97% satisfaction rate, and I think it's only at 97% because sometimes we count other people, not just our people who answer the phone. But I'm, again, very, very proud of them. We had a Rules Committee meeting on July 9th that I know our Rules Chair will discuss under new business. And then just to let everyone know, tomorrow I will be attending the Tennessee Independent Auto Dealers Association in Memphis. And hopefully Commissioner Norton and Commissioner Vaughn will join me there and to address them and just let them know what's going on with the commission and see if they have any questions. We do have continue to have a little bit of an uptick in complaints, inquiries from our dealers with regard to advertising, and hopefully we can get some more clarification when we discuss our new rules change coming up. That is pretty much all I have. Just one parking note. I know everybody got the notice. I am looking for something from our administration team on how we will park going forward, and we may actually be getting tags, but I'll have something certainly by the next meeting to give to you. So if anybody has any issues with parking, please let me know, and we will try to address those. And that's all I have.
Good. Legal report. Excuse me. Yes, we did adopt the.
Commissioner Jackson, make a motion to adopt the director's report.
Second, Commissioner Vaughn.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. The legal report. Erica?
Thank you. Okay, so we made quite a few changes. On number 7, we are changing the civil penalty to $2,500 for the temp tags and $500 for the title if it's confirmed that it has not been received. Number 12, we're going to close that one and open a complaint against the salesperson. Number 16, we're going to close and flag. Oh, I skipped one. Number 10, we are doing a letter of warning and flagging it for a follow-up investigation. Did I say 16 already? Okay. 40, we are going to leave that one open for further investigation and then re-present it at the next meeting. 42, the recommendation stays the same, but in addition, we are going to reach out to the deputy chair of the County Clerks Association to better understand the issues and concerns. 43, we are going to check with the Department of Revenue to make sure that the third temporary tag is allowed with the printed tags or the paper tags as it is for the Easy Tag system, because they did confirm Easy Tag, and if it is, then we will close that one. And the same thing for number 44. Number 49, we're going to close. Number 66 is another one where we're going to check with Department of Revenue and make sure they were allowed to have that third temporary tag, and if so, we're going to close it. Number 83, we are going to do a follow-up investigation. Number 89, we are going to leave that one open for further investigation and re-present it at the next meeting. Oh, I skipped another one, I'm sorry. Number 88, we are also leaving that one open and going to investigate further and re-present it at the next meeting. Is that 89? Yes, okay. 104 will be a $500 civil penalty. 144 will be a $250 civil penalty. And number 157, we want to require the respondent to appear at the next commission meeting. So basically, the original recommendation and decision will stand.
See if there's
That one's the protest.
Deafening silence is your chief counsel over here, Tony Glandorf, violently rummaging through electronic files to answer that question, Mr. Yes, Mr. Chairman. The commission did receive a written protest from
Else?
One would remain.
That's all the changes.
Right, there's your legal report. Do we have a
Mr. Jackson motion to adopt the legal report with the changes.
Commissioner Vaughn, second.
further discussion? Executive Director, would you call the roll on this?
Yes, sir. The motion is to adopt the legal report as amended by the legal committee. The motion was made by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee? Votes aye. Commissioner Melton? Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
votes aye.
We have a legislative update today. I know Maria's not here. Who would, do we have anything?
I'm sorry, I don't have anything since our last time. Maria, I don't think Maria has anything either.
Legal does not apologize.
Committee reports. Audit committee, there was no report. Rules committee, definitely was. And Chairman Vaughn, would you like to tackle this one?
Sure, absolutely. The Rules Committee met in Nashville on Friday, July 9th to consider several housekeeping changes at the suggestion of staff. In addition, staff presented recommendations relative to advertising to clarify existing practices. Those recommendations are in your packet and will be explained by the legal staff. So I'm going to turn that over to, I guess, Tony, maybe? Is that correct?
You could just give me a minute. We'll have the latest version.
I believe we
Should be on their iPads, yes.
Okay. Okay, so if you all have that in front of you, it should start out and say the first line would be, it has the rules and it has definitions next to it. Is that what you all are seeing? Okay, so I would like to skip that portion if we could and go down to the next one, because the definitions are going to be on the advertising rules. So we'll come back to that. We're just going to put a pin in the definitions right there. And so under the price advertising for motor vehicles, you'll see that the change in there includes under A1 is that if the price of a motor vehicle is advertised, then it states that they shall include the advertised price, any factory installed options, and dealer installed accessories. Okay, so that's the first sentence. For new motor vehicles, the advertised price must include the manufacturer suggested retail price and factory installed options, factory transportation costs, and any dealer installed accessories. So that is essentially, I'm just going to sum up what I said right there just for clarification, is that first line shows that the base advertised price, the advertised price, will include, number one, any factory installed options that would be from the manufacturer and dealer installed accessories. And then we state, just to clarify, to be specific to the new motor vehicles, that price has to be the MSRP, factory installed options, factory transportation costs, and then any dealer installed accessories. So I've used three terms in there that now we can go back up into the definitions, which are factory installed options and dealer installed accessories, and then factory transportation costs. These three definitions, the genesis for creating these definitions is that at the last committee meeting, I had tried to express to you all in very longer words as to what those three things are, and it appears it would be clearer probably to the commission members and also to those in the industry to use more industry terms and then define them up here. So we defined the factory installed options to include, I'm going to read that definition for you. The cost of any optional equipment installed by the manufacturer physically attached to a motor vehicle upon delivery to the dealer, and shall also mean any cost of any item as described in 15 U.S.C. 1232 F2. And I'll tell you what that is. That is the federal law for the Monroney label. So the Monroney label federal law that's already on a new motor vehicle, that Monroney law states that it has to show the MSRP. It has to also include the price of any of those factory installed options on them. It also has to have the transportation costs associated with it. Those are absolute. So we know that's already going to be on the sticker for new motor vehicles. It's already on there. So instead of saying manufacturer installed options as required by the Monroney label, I've written it out in words as it's any that are physically attached, and also means and I reference to the Monroney label definition also of what those factory installed options are. though it doesn't call it factory installed options, we're defining it as that as an industry term there. So the next definition is we use dealer installed accessories, and so I've defined that as it includes the cost of any optional equipment or accessories installed by the motor vehicle dealer that are physically attached on a motor vehicle at the time it's advertised for sale. So when it's advertised sitting on there, that is a dealer installed accessory already sitting on the vehicle, and that must be included in the price. And the third thing is we define the term factory transportation cost to include the cost of transportation of the motor vehicle to the location of the motor vehicle dealer, and shall also mean the cost of any item described in, and I quote the federal law, 15 U.S.C. 1232 F3, which is as the federal law on the requirement on what we call the Monroney label, that is required to also be part of the cost of a new vehicle on there. So the intent there for those two is that we are just for everybody verifying that transportation cost is the same transportation cost you're already required to have on that Monroney label. It's the same one. We're just making sure, just going to go ahead and quote the federal law there. Same with dealer installed options. Quoted the federal law, so if there's any confusion out there, it's what we're talking about. We're not creating a new cost. It's already required to be on there. The thing that would be new to this is the dealer installed, excuse me, I'm not saying it's new. What we're stating that should be on there, also included in that price, is the dealer installed accessories. And so we define that. So have I confused? Is there any questions on that right there? If not, I'll go down into the second portion.
I have one question. Could the dealer installed option?
They're not on the Monroney label. It's not required to be disclosed on it. That's only the factory installed. The factory installed options are required to be on it because they come from the factory, and that sticker is placed on there from them. The dealer installed options, there's usually a small addendum sticker that you'll see next to it, and so that's what we described in there is that included in that price also on a new motor vehicle. When you advertise, it has to be those dealer installed accessories that are on it. So we'll go down now to A2, and this is going to be I'm just going to describe it. It's a disclosure that has to be made as to what items are not included in that advertised price. So as part of that advertisement, it shall also state that the following are not included in the advertised price. Which are the costs of optional equipment which are selected by the purchaser. This is after the fact. The cost of any additional fees, and I cite the Tennessee state law in that 5517-114B1E, it refers to those dock fees, is what that refers to, or similar type fees. So it's those to include any dealer imposed fee by any name. So if there's any other fee that the dealer is imposing that is not considered necessarily a dock fee, if it's another fee, then it also has to be disclosed that it's not part of that advertised price. And then also what we already have, state and local sales taxes, registration, title fees. And so the third item is that as part of the advertisement, they shall separately list and describe those additional fees includable under A2, and then that's Romanet 2 there, which is, or small I, is the cost of those additional fees, and state the amount in clear and conspicuous manner as to that. So it has to separately list out and describe those additional fees that we have in there. Dock fees, those fees. Because you may not know what the cost of the additional equipment is. So if you look, why didn't we put AI? You would not know the cost of additional equipment selected by the purchaser at the time. So at the time you purchased the vehicle and you decided, hey, if you can add on X, describe anything, it would not be known as part of the advertisement because the consumer would have selected that. But would have been known at the time of the advertisement is any other additional fees that the dealer would have imposed. So what is that amount? Give us the amount. And again, we wouldn't know what the state and local sales tax, registration, title fees are until the time of the sale. So those three things are what we had described at the previous committee meeting. I think the largest change would have been attempting to make these definitions so that it reads clearer and uses industry terms, and we're defining those. And then under 3, those list and describe those fees would be just the cost of those additional dock fees or any other fee of any other name. Questions on that?
Commissioner Norton, I have a question because this comes up a lot in disclosures of fees. Well, and of course, most dealers advertise when disclosure on each page or with each price. Car, in other words, so could a dealer put a blanket on his homepage or an SRP page, or does he have to go specifically to each vehicle and make a disclosure on an advertised price on that vehicle individually?
I don't know exactly the answer to that, because I think the commission can decide how that should be disclosed. It has to be disclosed specifically. We state in there in a clear and conspicuous manner, which is under the statute. And I think I've heard some conversation about if we always charge the same fees on each of these vehicles, could it be at the end of the banner, or does it have to be specifically?
Tony, can you speak into that? It's hard to hear
I'm
you.
so sorry. I
Well, I've
apologize.
got the wall of plexiglass here, so.
Yeah, sorry. So no, I think that's something that the commission can decide, is how they would want it to be advertised specifically to internet sales. Because I think the disclosure states that it has to be made. How they make that is a different.
I think you'd want it on each individual vehicle. Ultimately, like Debbie said here, the manufacturer, that's the way they expect that to be handled. And if it is, if you're comparing two vehicles, if Jim's got his priced without his documentation fee, and I've got a $5.99 documentation fee on mine, now my price is now $599 higher than Jim's on that particular point. If you made it a blanket, how, as a consumer, I'm looking at it as a consumer, how's the consumer going to know if he misses it on the home page? How's he going to know that there's a $5.99 on each vehicle?
But it would clarify it, I think, if you click on, say you're looking at the homepage and it lists out several vehicles. If you drill down to each one and you're looking at the options, when you get to that one specific vehicle, that's where I think it should include everything. Maybe not necessarily on the homepage, because also you have to take into account, what county they live in, all those different things. So if you list it out that, hey, if that's.
I think the concern with doing it, we talk about a blanket page for our website as a dealer. That's once you get into the third-party lead providers, that's when you're going to get in your pickle there.
Yeah, that's the issue, is because some of them pick up those documentation fees, some don't.
Right, because in a third-party lead provider, they're not comparing two cars on your lot; they're comparing you versus the guy across town. So that's kind of why, for the clarity for the consumer.
I think from an enforcement standpoint, it's easier if they say it's easier. From an enforcement standpoint, it is it's more straightforward for compliance and for disclosures to the consumer if it's on each vehicle. So say, for instance, if that dock fee, because as of right now, all vehicles have the dock fee stated on the vehicles in general. So that way there's not a question as to a mistake. There's not a question as to whether or not it was visible at it or whatnot. But, it's definitely an item for the commission to determine how you all would like to do it.
Further comments?
And then one thing I'd go back to Tony, is still you got the manufacturer's piece in there that because if I, like we've gone before, if I add a dealer installed accessory onto a Chevrolet truck, they don't identify that. So if a consumer comes in there and I've added $700 worth of steps, that price does not jive with what they see on the internet. And I think some other Cadillac's that way. I know Acura is the same way. I'm not sure about Land Rover and some others that way, but that becomes an issue with the consumer, and I don't know how you overcome that. Unless the manufacturer has to let the reins go on the websites that we're forced to use by them.
Right, and so I do know that, you know, to the extent that a manufacturer may have influence or control, give guidelines on the websites of the motor vehicle dealers, an option that the commission could have would be, since there's so many manufacturers out there, and the control of the website is probably likely done by a third party that they've used, is that the commission could do it through a model of education where if you have a dealer who indicates that they cannot comply because the manufacturer has influence or controls the site, it may be a point of communicating with the manufacturer at that time, because we have a specific instance that we can show them, as opposed to just a blanket idea of what they are. This is the issue that we're running into, where the dealer is not able to comply with the rules because of that, and see if an education model wouldn't work towards the manufacturer to help open up that discussion, because we will be able to go to that individual manufacturer at the time. We'll probably then get the point of contact to who controls the site and whatnot to open up the discussion for the issue, and then whether or not the violation occurred because of a consumer complaint or a competitor-driven complaint, then the commission could determine to take different dispositions on penalties or whatnot to that dealer, depending on those circumstances.
Calvin, so once these rules are set, when does it go into effect? And as dealers, we continue doing what?
Right. Yeah. So the new rules would not go into effect. We would have a few more processes on this. We're at the beginning here of the process. So we'd have to actually have a rulemaking hearing. There would be comments, and then once the rulemaking hearing is held, then they would be filed, and it's generally there's a 90-day waiting period until those rules come into effect once they're filed. The commission could decide to delay rules if they ever wanted to delay the effectiveness of any rule, but generally, from the process that we're at right now, it's usually a 6 to 8 month timeline before where we're at now before any rule would be in effect.
Let's say an investigator comes out and gives me a fine on my processing fee right now. Is it still going into effect? I get fined until
It would be a violation, yes. So the rule is what the current rule stays in place until the new rule takes effect. So yes, it would still be a violation. In the instance that the commission wants to change rules or whatnot, they can take their own approach as to what discipline they would issue out for that. Civil penalties, letter of warnings, things of that nature for changing.
I'm sorry, this is Executive Director Lawrence. That may merit a discussion amongst you all if that's something the commission wants to look at, and given the fact that we are considering new rules, if the commission wants to consider, looking at leniency going forward on those particular items, or if you want to continue as we have been, the staff can then make recommendations based on what they believe the commission is looking for.
That's a line for. Why are you fining me?
Question to the staff. Scope and civil penalties.
be careful with that personally, just because of
Yeah.
only if it. To me, the only way we should do that is if Commissioner Vaughn, by the way, only way we should do that is if the person is or the dealer is moving to the next to the approved rule. If we decide to approve it, because I mean, if you give a blanket, then it'll be the Wild
West.
Right?
Yeah. Had to ask a question. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's going to be
It will definitely come up
over and over again. Yeah.
Yes, it will
So,
be.
I think we need to have a clear stance on that.
Agreed.
From the commission. I agree. No, I had to ask a question.
This Commissioner Lee, the only reason we're making the change or being specific is because it's being abused. So why would you let somebody skip the abuse right now to come back and give them time? My thought is that you stay exactly with what we're doing now instead of making a change until that change, which is good change, until it comes forward.
Commissioner Norton, I agree, because obviously this is a public hearing, and information is going to get out there, and then you're going to have 3,700 dealers are going to start skirting the issue. So the staff would be just going to be challenged to the nth degree, and there's going to be questions asked, including tomorrow in Memphis, where they're going to what can we do? It's going to be asked, can we go ahead and proceed with the new rules, the proposed rules? And so I think as a commission, we got to clearly establish that effect that, no, the rules hadn't changed. The rules still apply.
I think this is Commissioner Levy. I think that's the same with any rule or law that gets changed. There's often an implementation date, and you act at your own peril if you do it before the implementation date is effective.
Yes, sorry. So there were a few more changes. Then I think that's past those price advertising. One more on number 4 on the top of page 2. You'll see that we've changed from all consumers to the words for which all consumers qualify to really hone in on that rule about the qualification of persons who would receive rebates. And then down to number 5. Number 5 is already an existing rule that is parallel to the one that we saw in 1 up there, which talks about a new motor vehicle, recreational vehicle, shall not state then advertised price has been discounted unless it's from the MSRP. We say, and we just added as reflected on that Monroney label there. And so we just to clarify that is the federal MSRP, that same one that's on that sticker there, as opposed to discounting from the plus. And then that's a clarification. And for the licensing fees, there is currently a $400 fee for a reinspection of an applicant who is applying for a license when it's necessitated by their inaction or action, such as we went there to inspect and they were not there, and then they were not there again, and we've had to pay our investigator to go out there, and they then necessitated them coming back. And so this is in the instance, it says, in the event that a licensee requires a reinspection due to their action or inaction, the license will be assessed a cost, shall be assessed the cost of reinspection, but no instance more than $400. And so that is that what you all are seeing there on the document? Okay. That is for an actual license. And oftentimes there would be an inspection or reinspection, such as a biannual annual inspection that we would do on them, and we have to keep coming back to do that. So scope of what it's no more than
on that. Everybody understand what that's for?
And so, sorry, I don't think I explained very well then. It's the cost of the reinspection. So we talked about that at the committee meeting. So I apologize. I didn't really give you the better instance of the language, is that whatever the cost of the reinspection may change from year to year based on what is costed back to the program for the inspector to go out there. So our costs kind of change every year. And so the idea is that for whatever the time is and the cost it back to the commission for that inspection, that was what would be charged to them. And it's usually a yearly model that we have. It costs, for instance, $26.50 per hour or something like that. Easily calculable, but it's in the rule right there, so that it's actual cost no more than $4. And the last change there is the requirement that at automobile auctions that they actually post their license of the automobile auction, and also of the principal auctioneer who's there. The term principal auctioneer is being used because there was a change of the auctioneering statute, and so we wanted to be cognizant of what their laws are and their licensees, so it's clear that at that location that they'll have a displayed license of a principal auctioneer then. And that concludes all of the changes.
Anybody have any questions about the last part, or even the first part of the definitions? We didn't go over the definitions exactly, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Is there further discussion?
Commissioner Evans, when do the rules go into effect?
So there's a process. We don't have a date that they would go into effect. I can give you an average timeline of what it would be. This adoption right here would, if you all agree to this today, then this is the substance of the rules. We will internally start to create the paperwork to file with the Secretary of State's an actual document, which is a notice to the public of these changes, and these are the changes that the Commission intends to adopt at a rulemaking hearing in the future, such as maybe the October meeting. And so we would file that. It would give the public a time to comment on it, and then at the next meeting, we would have the formal meeting for the adoption of these at a rulemaking hearing, where the public would be allowed to ask questions on the rules, or make public comment. The Commission would respond to those comments. They could send in comments before. And so the average timeline of that would be about, say, 7 to 8 months. And after we had the rulemaking hearing, there would be an actual filing that would show the effective date. And the public would know 90 days before the effective date, the public would have notice of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's no further discussion. Do I have a motion to adopt? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Excellent.
The roll call vote.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and do a roll call on this one just to be sure. And the motion for adoption was made by Commissioner Lee and seconded by Commissioner Melton. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Murray? Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
You have adopted the Rules Committee report.
Okay. Next will be new business. We've everyone was mailed or sent the meeting dates for next year, and I've been told also as of this morning that that there will be a hearing set, and the judge has agreed to those dates, so it looks like that's going to happen. So let's make sure that everything concurs with your schedules. But have y'all looked at it, and you prepared to adopt these dates?
Commissioner Levy, is that formal hearing scheduled for April 26th through 29? So it's a 3-day hearing? Is that what we anticipate?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Possibly continue the next week.
These are all 2020. I want to make a motion to adopt the calendar for next.
Commissioner Vaughn, so moved.
Commissioner Jackson, second.
Any further discussion? Let's vote on that.
Okay, the motion is to adopt the schedule for 2022 made by Commissioner Vaughn and seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Murray. Votes aye. Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West. Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts.
Aye.
Votes aye.
Anything else under new business?
May I add something quickly under new business? And I apologize for bringing this up sort of without advance notice, but I have been looking at some outreach programs, and part of what I was looking at is the opportunity to print a statute-specific booklet for you guys to have on hand. We used to do that and print out just the statute. I know it's available online. Lots of people, I'm a paper person, so I like to have something at my fingertips. We have enough in our reserve account in order to do something like that. I've gotten a preliminary quote from LexisNexis. The beauty of it is, if we did that, we used to provide these to the county clerk's office so that when new dealers came in and signed up, they actually got a copy of the statute and the rules right there. And I think it's a whole lot easier for us to try to hold them accountable when they have something in their hands and they don't have any excuse. So the bottom line is I can get 1,000 of these printed for around $13,000, 3,000 for about $26,000. So the price goes down. If I have to see if this would fall under our modernization bill that was passed this last session, which would allow us to use some reserve funds for various and sundry things. That's something I'll have to go up the chain with the commissioner and the department here. But I wanted to broach the subject with you all to let you know what I was thinking and to see if you had any thoughts or ideas on it. Again, we would have the money in reserves if you all were interested in doing something like that.
Would wait to.
That would be entirely up to you, probably. I think it would be a good idea to do that because I hate to immediately get it and have, handwriting in the book. But I think, yes, that would be a good idea.
That sounds great.
I agree.
I mean, it will take a while, and it will take a while for me to get that up the chain to make sure that we can use reserve funds for that. But I just wanted to put that bug in your ear because I'd really like to have something that we can have out there for our dealers that they can use as a tool to rely on.
I have a question, Mr. Commissioner Lee. How many times have the statutes been changed?
Gosh, I would have to defer to Mr. Weaver.
We don't do it a lot.
Not much.
The Rules Committee meets. It's.
I think this is the first time the rules have been changed in years.
4 or 5 years.
If you're going to change them quite often, to go ahead and put it in print didn't make a lot of sense. But if it's something that's,
Mr. Weaver says 3 times.
We don't need to vote.
We don't need to vote or anything.
That's
just informational, and I can keep you all posted.
This commissioner thinks it's a lovely idea.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other new business.
We have one last item. We do need to get, I think Tony needs to get you all to approve a rulemaking hearing date.
Yes, so for the rules that we just adopted, I apologize.
I can hear you.
Mute lights up.
Sorry, it's
made me think that I was on.
Something about this makes it worse.
It's supposed to pick up your voice as you speak. So, I do need the commission to approve a date that we can have a rulemaking hearing on those rules for the public to come and give comment on. Traditionally, the way that is beneficial to get it before the commission, unless you have a specific date, is that if you authorize legal to schedule that on the next available commission meeting date. That would be helpful because those rules have to go through internal approval through the department, and then they have to be filed at the Secretary of State's office approximately 52 days before the meeting date. And so I think it would I don't see there to be an issue of not being able to do it in October, but I would hate to get one date. So generally, I'd usually ask for the next event at the October meeting or the January at the latest.
We need to vote on that, do we? I move that we vote on that.
Don't do that. Now we got to vote on that.
Okay, the motion is to hold a rulemaking hearing at our next available meeting, which would be the October meeting. And sorry, I don't have that exact date in front of me. The motion was made by Commissioner West and seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. And
to add that if it's not by the October meeting, then the January meeting would be acceptable.
yes,
that sounds
let's
lovely.
amend the motion so that we will either do the rulemaking hearing at the October meeting if it's available then, if not at our January meeting. Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Murray. Votes aye. Commissioner Norton.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West.
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts.
Aye. Okay.
Motion passes.
Any nothing else in new business? So let's nothing in old business either. Denise?
I do not have anything.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Are adjourned. Thank
Okay.
you, guys.
Do the sign.
Harry.
Audit and
We know, John.